The title of this video might seem paradoxical to some, but if you're willing to hear me out, I'm sure I can point out some reasons why DC Comics is better and more popular than Marvel. And if not, well then I've given you my pitch and there's nothing I could do. First, let's start off stating the obvious. The MCU is a Goliath. Being relevant in pop culture for over a decade, that's an accomplishment that not a lot of people or things can say, especially nowadays when our attention spans have become so limited. The MCU has grossed $29.8 billion, truly Scrooge McDuck levels of wealth. I'm not denying the popularity of this behemoth. I'm simply stating that DC Comics has the potential to be, and has been, the better of the two. I normally use this analogy when referring to the subject. Ignoring the MCU, what are the most popular characters in all of comics? You could still name MCU characters, just ignore the impact that the MCU has had on their popularity. For example, most everyone loves Iron Man, but if you asked anyone other than a hardcore Marvel Comics fan, you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that could tell you anything about Iron Man that wasn't related to the MCU. When I normally ask, these are the names that I normally hear: Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, and The Flash. Some other names come up, but these are the top 5 that I normally hear from people. 4 out of 5 of these are DC. Further, when you talk about anything other than cinematic live action, DC has an astounding lead over Marvel. For example, animated. The DC animated universe is widely regarded as great, and all of the movies and shows stand on their own. You could watch the entire DCAU in order, and it would make sense, but if you just wanted to watch Justice League Dark, or Flashpoint, or The Son of Batman, or Injustice, or Batman Ninja, you could watch any of these without watching the previous entries, and you would understand the movie just fine, an attribute I see less and less in the MCU as time goes on. Games. The Arkham trilogy is regarded as the best video game comic adaptation by many people for a good reason. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League wasn't up to that level of quality, but definitely did leave its mark. You have DC Universe Online, which isn't as big but has thousands of players on its servers at any point in time and is going on a decade old. And it has probably the best cutscene I've ever seen. I normally hate cutscenes and I'll normally watch them once and always skip them after that, but the DCUO opening cutscene is so amazing I have never skipped it, which is saying a lot because it plays every time you open the game. The DCUO opening cutscene is what I want James Gunn's DCU to turn into. On top of that, we have Injustice Gods Among Us, which is a Mortal Kombat style game with DC characters. I enjoyed the game when it came out and played it for about a year after that, but it's still getting updates to this day. On top of that, James Gunn is the guy that made Guardians of the Galaxy and The Suicide Squad, both highly acclaimed movies for their characters. He now has taken over the cinematic oversight in DC, and within his first month of being in that seat, systematically abolished the train wreck that was taking place. Honestly, I was just happy that anyone that wasn't Zack Snyder was handling the DCU. But beyond that, we only know the layout of some of the Phase 1 DCU projects going forward. But based on what James Gunn is saying that we are going to get in the DCU moving forward, and the actions that he has already taken, it has many people, myself included, excited about what's to come. On to Zack Snyder. I do not like this man, but it is my responsibility to cover him. He dumps billions of dollars into special effects and CGI, and spent half an hour per script. And that's probably generous. On top of that, he released Man of Steel in 2013 and continued making movies in the Snyderverse until 2021 when he released his final entry deemed the Snyder Cut, where he released his vision of the movie that he only half finished before giving to any other director to put band-aids on before releasing it so that they could take the blame for it. 4 years later, he would release his cut of what he supposedly wanted the movie to be in theaters. It was 4 hours long with an ungodly amount of yodeling.
have the blood of the old gods in you.
Shall we?
I'm sure you enjoyed that. Moving on. As for serialized media, there are 3 notable entries. The Arrowverse is the first, and is the nickname given to the CW's multiverse started by the show Green Arrow in 2012, over a decade ago. You have a wide spectrum of what people think is good in the show, but the general consensus is that the shows start out good and then start regressing over time. Me personally, I like seasons 1 and 2 of Arrow and enjoyed season 1 of The Flash, ignoring the obvious problems that come with a man who can basically stop time. The franchise has more memes than Rick and Morty, SpongeBob, and Breaking Bad combined, mostly due to the fact that the shows don't get unwatchably bad, they get cringily memey. Here are a handful of examples.
We're not gonna win this today.
The second entry is Gotham, a Batman show without Batman. It's a show in Gotham that takes place right after Bruce's parents die. It's notable for a handful of things, but some of the big ones are Cameron Monaghan and his amazing portrayal as the not Joker.
You all know this game, right?
Love it.
Who wants to be the boss?
Ladies first. Hey, Greenwood. What's the secret to good comedy? Timing. And what's courage? Grace under pressure. And who's the boss? I'm the boss.
I believe you are, Jerome. I believe you are.
Arigato, sensei.
Why Cameron's character is referred to as the not Joker, the abundance of secret twin plots, the Ivy speed growth reasoning, Robin Lord Taylor's ungodly performance as the Penguin.
The knife, Butch. The knife that maimed his ancestor. This is a blood feud for Galavan. He wants revenge against the Waynes. He's acting out of emotion, and that can be manipulated. Have another drink. You are going to go to Galavan. You're going to tell him I went nuts, and that I accused you of setting up the count shop raid. You are in fear for your life and you need a job. Got that?
Yes, boss.
Once you're inside his organization, you will find my mother and rescue her.
Yes, boss. But Galavan's a smart guy. That's a basic play. No way is he gonna buy I turn traitor.
No. But he will buy that I think you turned traitor. He'll buy it if we sell it right. Drink up.
How do we sell it?
I already sold him my paranoia, but you're the closer. How do we sell you? How do we make him trust and feel for you? I wasn't sure. But then Celestine and Caleb told me how.
How?
The Riddler X Penguin canon plot line, just to name a few. The third entry is Smallville, a TV show that started in 2001 and ended in 2011, about Superman in high school. The show has so much acclaim to it that when the Arrowverse ended, they wanted to make a reference to Smallville and made it a big plot point. I am currently watching it and enjoying it. I am starting season 3 now. Normally I don't like dramas, and the show definitely counts as a drama, but it has a layout that I typically don't see shows using anymore. The characters are so well developed, and every episode pushes their character further, that if there's a plot point or character that you don't like, it only takes up at most 5 minutes of the 45-minute episode. For characters, you have Lex, Lionel, Chloe, Clark, Lana, Martha, Jonathan, Pete, and a handful more, and all of the characters have relationships with each other. Lex and Clark become good friends, Lana and Lex have a business partnership, Jonathan is hesitant to trust Lex because of previous dealings with Lex's father, Lex is trying to be friendly to help Jonathan, there's a love triangle between Chloe, Lana, and Clark. If one or two of these is of no interest to you, then it's not a big part of the show. So I think it's fair to say that DC has left its mark in destroying Marvel in every field that's not live-action movies. One aspect that I would like to talk about for this regard as well is the Rogues Galleries. Rogues Galleries have been an all-encompassing term for characters' villains. This term started off with The Flash in 2001, a team of Captain Coldtop, Weather Wizard, Trickster, Abracadabra, Mirror Master, Heatwave, Golden Glider, Pied Piper, and Captain Boomerang all joined forces in order to take down the Flash. There are many other teams throughout comics that have done something similar. Sinister Six and Injustice League come to mind, but the Flash was the first to do it, and it was the best to do it. But I would like to pitch that one of the big reasons that DC is better than Marvel is because DC characters have rogues galleries. A hero can only be as good as his villains, and with the exception of Spider-Man, no characters in Marvels have a good list of enemies. Please tell me the list of enemies that Doctor Strange, Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Cyclops, Mystique have. I can't name a single character who has a list of notorious villains. The most I can think of is 2, and that would be Tony Stark with Whiplash and the Mandarin. And that's all that really comes to mind. And it's only 2 villains. And if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me, but I'd be willing to bet that I'm not. And any notorious enemy is typically an enemy to a group, and there's typically only one of them. Doctor Doom is a Fantastic Four villain, but name me another. Magneto is an X-Men villain, but name me another. As opposed to DC, where you have Superman, Doomsday, Zod, Brainiac, Bizarro, Mxyzptlk. Batman, you got Harley, Joker, Ivy, Catwoman, Roz, Talia, Bane, Scarecrow, Riddler, Penguin. Flash is Captain Cold, Chop, Weather Wizard, Trickster, Abracadabra, Mirror Master, Heatwave, Golden Glider, Pied Piper, Captain Boomerang, Reverse Flash, Gorilla Grodd, Zoom, Godspeed, Killer Frost, Thinker, Savitar, Black Flash. Green Lantern, you have Atrocitus, Larfleeze, Sinestro, Parallax, Necron. Wonder Woman, you got Cheetah, Giganta, Circe, Ares. And this goes on and on for all the characters. All of these were just off the top of my head. I'm sure if I looked it up, there's a handful of characters that I missed for all of these characters. On top of that, DC has something for everyone, and I think that's something that really leans into DC's benefit. I think James Gunn realizes this too, and he has stated that for his DCU, there will be several different genres and tones depending on what the content calls for. Okay, I'm done speculating on the DCU. I won't talk about it anymore. But if you're looking for a lighthearted story, go pick up a Flash comic. If you're looking for an uplifting story, go find anything Superman. Do you want a dark and gritty story? Go find a Batman comic. Story about the corruption of power in our world? That's the entire pitch for the Green Lanterns. A philosophical story that dives into the actions and repercussions of God and Lucifer? Lucifer is right there. A story about the abstract concepts like death, destiny, and dream given form as arguably the most powerful beings in all of DC, go find Sandman. A story about a man that thinks of strategies far beyond anything that you could have possibly put together, go find a Constantine or Riddler story. This is so prevalent that DC felt it was stretching too far and created a sub company called Vertigo for its super gruesome and violent and mature audience. And I'm not talking lighthearted stuff like fridging, murder, suicide, and trapped for an eternity in regular DC comics, but Vertigo is an entirely different level. Well, I hope I gave you at least something to think about. This is something that I've needed to talk about for a long time, and I finally just took the leap and built up the courage to create a video on the subject. I hope you liked. If you do, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.